When reality feels dull and your life needs a jolt, some people don't reach for coffee, they inhale canned air. Yes, keyboard cleaner. For the price of a fast food meal, you can take a ride through a hallucination powered by compressed gas and bad decisions. Or maybe you'd prefer something more sophisticated. A mind-shattering chemical cocktail that once made soldiers believe they were playing invisible tennis in a field of ghosts. Sounds absurd, right? But here's the twist. These aren't sci-fi inventions. They're real substances. Some are legal, some are hiding in your neighborhood gas station. And others? Well, they were cooked up by governments trying to win wars without firing a single bullet. This is the shadow side of chemistry, the kind that doesn't come with warning labels or refunds. The kind that whispers, try it once. What's the worst that could happen? Spoiler alert. Death, psychosis, and brain damage are just the beginning. So buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the most bizarre, deadly, and unbelievably real drugs you've never heard of. And by the end of this video, you might just think twice before trusting anything labeled herbal, legal, or experimental. Let's begin our descent into this twisted pharmacological rabbit hole, with something that starts in your office drawer and ends in the ER. Shall we? What if the most dangerous substances weren't sold in shady alleyways, but quietly sitting in your medicine cabinet, or hiding behind flashy names like herbal ecstasy, liquid dreams, or plant-based peace? Across the world, a silent war is raging, but it's not being fought with guns or tanks. It's fought through powder, pills, and vapor. The battlefield? Your brain, your bloodstream, your very sense of reality. Some of these chemicals were born in legitimate labs, designed by researchers with good intentions. Others are Frankenstein compounds, stitched together by amateur chemists chasing the next legal high. Then there are the forgotten ones. Military-grade substances never meant to escape the lab, yet somehow slipped into the hands of the curious, the desperate, or the thrill-seeking. The terrifying part? Many of them are legal or worse, mislabeled as safe. Some are sold in corner stores or online just a few clicks away. Others are added to counterfeit pills or street drugs, turning an already dangerous habit into a fatal experiment. These are not the drugs your parents warned you about. They're far more unpredictable, often untraceable, and sometimes impossible to survive. And in a world where information spreads faster than consequences, they've become the perfect storm, a mix of curiosity, accessibility, and chemical chaos. Today, we're not just talking about drugs, we're talking about chemical roulette, about invisible threats that don't wait for you to hit rock bottom. They hit first and fast. And to understand how bad it gets, we need to go deeper, into the science, into the stories, into the very molecules that hijack our bodies and erase who we are sometimes in minutes. Let's start with something that costs less than a sandwich but could cost you your life. Air duster. It's marketed as a tool for cleaning keyboards. But for some, it's a shortcut to euphoria that costs just a few bucks and potentially everything else. Air duster, or canned air, isn't actually filled with air. It usually contains compressed gases like difluoroethane, which displace oxygen in your lungs and can deliver an instant disorienting high. The sensation? A few seconds of dizziness, floating, numb limbs, and slurred thoughts like your brain has been unplugged. Some users call it cheap VR, but the consequences are far from virtual. Prolonged use can lead to oxygen deprivation, seizures, and cardiac arrest. In one reported case, a man who huffed air duster every day for a month suffered a heart attack known as a non-ST elevation myocardial infarction despite being in his 30s. And in a heartbreaking twist, pop artist Aaron Carter lost his life in 2022 due to complications related to duster abuse. It's easy to dismiss these cases as rare, but with over 200,000 teens admitting to using inhalants in a single year, the threat is real, deadly even. And this is just the beginning. The next substance on our list doesn't just mess with your heart, it can take your limbs. Dragonfly. Dragonfly sounds like something whimsical, delicate, even beautiful. But don't let the name fool you. This hallucinogen is more like a nightmare dressed in a dropper. Structurally related to the NBOMe class of psychedelics, Dragonfly is a synthetic compound that hijacks your serotonin receptors and throws your brain into a chaotic storm of hallucinations, ones that can last for 3 excruciating days. For some users, the trip begins gently. Colors bend, sounds melt, and time feels like taffy. But then come the thorns literally. One user described hallucinating that he was being torn apart by razor-sharp bushes. Another had to be restrained by friends as he screamed about swarms of bees attacking his skin. But the visual torment isn't even the worst part. Dragonfly is a vasoconstrictor, which means it tightens blood vessels. In severe cases, that leads to tissue death, gangrene, and ultimately, amputation. One man in Sweden lost both his feet and several fingers after a single dose. Others haven't been so lucky they simply never woke up. It's cheap, it's accessible, and it's unforgiving. Ready for something even deadlier? Let's talk about a group of opioids so strong they make fentanyl look like aspirin. Nines. Imagine a drug so potent that fentanyl, a substance 50 times stronger than heroin, looks mild in comparison. Meet the nines, a family of synthetic opioids with names like isotonitazine, metonitazine, and protonitazine. Originally developed in the 1952nd as alternatives to morphine, they were shelved for being far too dangerous for medical use. Now, decades later, they've returned not through hospitals, but through the black market. Dealers love nines because they're cheap to make and require only tiny doses to deliver a kick. They cut it into counterfeit pills, street cocaine, even fake cannabis. The problem? Users often have no idea it's there. And when something 20 times stronger than fentanyl slips into your system unnoticed, the result is often fatal. Overdoses caused by nines are difficult to reverse even with naloxone, and they're spreading fast. From Canada to the UK to Middle America, toxicology reports show a rise in mysterious deaths, many linked to these invisible killers. They don't come with a skull and crossbones warning, but they should. And just when you think we've reached the top of the danger scale, the next substance will take you to another universe literally. Let's dive into Salvia Mark I. Salvia Mark I. Most hallucinogens distort reality. Salvia Mark I obliterates it. Derived from the plant Salvia divinorum, this compound, especially in its ultra-concentrated variant, salvinorin B-methoxymethyl ether, can plunge users into a different dimension within seconds. It's not about seeing colors or hearing music, it's about becoming something entirely else. One user described crumbling into interlocking puzzle pieces. Another claimed to transform into a sausage being judged by alien diplomats. These aren't exaggerations, they're direct reports from people who tried to just have a little fun. Salvia acts fast. A single hit can induce a level 5 psychedelic trip that lasts only minutes in real time, but feels eternal to the brain. Physical coordination vanishes. Language dissolves. Some users scream, others freeze, many forget where or who they are. The terrifying part? In many places, it's legal and cheap. A few dollars can send you spiraling through the fabric of your own identity. This isn't a party drug, it's psychological Russian roulette. Now, if that sounded too intense, brace yourself. The next chemical on our list doesn't distort reality. It pushes your body to dance itself straight into the grave. Welcome to PMMA. Ready? PMA. Looks like MDMA. It even feels like it at first. But underneath that familiar euphoric glow is a death trap. Often mistaken for ecstasy, PMMA paramethoxyamphetamine has fooled countless partygoers into swallowing a dose of disaster. It doesn't just make you sweat on the dance floor, it can cook your insides alive. The trick is in its timing. PMMA takes longer to kick in than MDMA, so users often take more, thinking the first pill was weak. That's when things spiral. Body temperature spikes, heart rate accelerates uncontrollably, seizures follow, and for some, death arrives before help can. In Norway alone, 12 people died within 6 months after unknowingly taking PMMA. In Canada, 21 lives were lost in 1 year. And at a rave in Buenos Aires, 5 people collapsed and never got back up. all from a substance they didn't know they'd taken. There's no color, no taste, no smell to warn you. Just the illusion of a good time, followed by the reality of a coroner's report. But if you think that's brutal, the next substance makes death seem merciful. It's called pyro, and it might be the most terrifying opioid you've never heard of. Let's go. Pyro. If fentanyl is already horrifying, pyro is its unhinged older sibling. Officially known as N-pyridino-E-tonitazine, pyro belongs to the new wave of synthetic opioids responsible for what experts now call the fourth opioid crisis. It's not just stronger than fentanyl, it's up to 1,500 times more powerful than morphine. Let that sink in. This isn't a street drug people ask for by name. It's the invisible monster laced into counterfeit pills, fake oxycodone, and even cocaine. The catch? Most users don't know it's there until it's far too late. A microscopic dose is enough to shut down your respiratory system. There's no warning, no time to call for help, you just stop. Pyro has been detected in overdose deaths from Indiana to New York, and even in fake pills circulating in Canada. It's unpredictable, untraceable, and unrelenting. Why is it out there? Because it's cheap, easy to produce, and insanely potent. For illicit manufacturers, that's a winning formula. For the rest of us, it's a time bomb. And if your nightmares aren't already breathing heavy, the next chemical will show you what it's like to dream on command and maybe never fully wake up. Let's talk about galantamine. Galantamine, picture this. You're in a dream. You're aware of it. You know it's not real, but you can control everything. You fly, rewrite memories, change the world with a thought. Sounds like magic? In the world of lucid dreaming, it's science, and galantamine is the shortcut. Originally developed to treat mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease, galantamine works by enhancing acetylcholine levels in the brain, a neurotransmitter tied to memory and awareness. But when taken at the right moment during sleep, it doesn't just boost cognition. It opens a door. Nearly 60% of participants in controlled studies reported lucid dreams when using galantamine. We're talking full awareness, extended control, and vivid experiences that feel indistinguishable from reality. You're not just dreaming, you're piloting the dream. But every portal has a price. Galantamine can cause nausea, insomnia, and sleep paralysis. And while not addictive, it shouldn't be used like a toy. When you manipulate the architecture of your sleep, your brain can fight back in strange ways. Still, compared to what's coming next, galantamine feels like a fantasy novel, because the next chemical didn't unlock dreams, it destroyed them. One dose, and your nervous system collapses into Parkinson's disease. Let's talk MPTP. MPTP wasn't created to get people high. It was an accident, a chemical mistake that turned a curious chemistry student into a neurological warning sign. In the 1972nd, a 3-year-old man synthesized a compound in his garage, hoping for a euphoric buzz. What he got was rapid-onset Parkinson's disease. Within days, he was frozen. Shaking hands, slurred speech, rigid posture. His brain's dopamine-producing neurons had been obliterated. Doctors were stunned. It looked like he'd aged 50 years overnight. The culprit? A byproduct called MPTP, short for 1-methyl-4-phenyl-1,2,3,6-tetrahydropyridine. MPTP isn't psychoactive. It doesn't get you high. But when it sneaks into your system, often as a contaminant in street drugs, it's a neurotoxin of surgical precision. It bypasses the blood-brain barrier, enters neurons, and kills them from the inside out. The result, permanent, untreatable Parkinsonian symptoms, no cure, no rewind. This tragic mistake wasn't isolated. In the 1982nd, over 120 people in California developed Parkinson-like conditions after unknowingly taking MPTP-laced heroin. Since then, it has haunted medical literature as a chilling example of what can happen when synthetic chemistry goes rogue. Next, we move from brain damage to psychological implosion. Meet foxymethoxy, the drug that tricks you into overdosing on your own mind. Foxymethoxy. With a name like foxymethoxy, you might expect a playful high, something colorful and trippy, maybe even sensual. And at first, that's how it begins. This synthetic psychedelic, also known as 5-MeO-DPT, delivers mild euphoria, tingling sensations, and vivid visuals. It also amplifies emotions, often inducing intense arousal or feelings of connection. But here's the trap. It takes a long time to kick in, sometimes an hour, sometimes more. Impatient users think it isn't working and take another dose. That second hit, it's often fatal. Foxy is brutal on the stomach and body. Overdoses can trigger severe nausea, hallucinations, paranoia, muscle breakdown, kidney failure, and in some tragic cases, death. One man who inserted the drug rectally thinking he'd speed up the effect died within hours from rhabdomyolysis and organ collapse. He thought he was in control. He wasn't. The hallucinations aren't fun either. Some users describe falling into a state where nothing in life feels real. Your job, your friends, your identity, fabrications of your own imagination. It's not a trip, it's a breakdown. And if that wasn't horrifying enough, the next compound can erase entire days from your memory while your body keeps moving. Let's meet fluobromazolam. Fluobromazolam. This isn't just a sedative. It's chemical amnesia in pill form. Fluobromazolam belongs to the designer benzodiazepine family, a cousin of Xanax, but with a sinister twist. It was never approved for medical use, yet it found its way onto the street. And it doesn't gently lull you to sleep. It knocks you out hard and keeps you under for days. Take too much, and you might not remember anything for 48 hours. That sounds tame until you wake up in a jail cell with no idea how you got there. One user described blacking out on Friday, waking up on Sunday, and being told they'd shoplifted a pork roast and fried it in a stranger's home. They had no memory of any of it. Even scarier, fluobromazolam is often used in crimes. Its strength and stealth make it a go-to for spiking drinks and robbing victims who never even realize what happened. Small doses can lead to coma. Larger ones, respiratory failure, cardiac arrest, and death. It's not about losing a night. It's about losing your agency. But if you think that's the scariest drug on earth, wait until you hear what happens when the CIA tries to weaponize madness itself. Let's talk EA 3167, the final boss. EA 3167BZs. This isn't a party drug. It's psychological warfare in a bottle. Known by its codename EA 3167, this compound was developed by the US military during the Cold War. Its purpose? Not to heal or help, but to mentally disable enemy troops without firing a shot. It was the cousin of BZ, a powerful deliriant already notorious for inducing madness. But EA 3167 took things further too far. One dose could plunge a person into weeks of hallucination, paranoia, and complete detachment from reality. We're talking 5 to 20 days of total psychological disintegration. In military experiments, soldiers believed they were smoking invisible cigarettes or playing tennis with imaginary rackets. Some crawled on all fours, barking like animals. Others couldn't remember their own names. The CIA allegedly tested it on prisoners in the 1952nd. Some researchers believe it was even used on civilians, like during the mass psychotic outbreak in Pont-Saint-Esprit, France in 1951, when an entire village hallucinated, convulsed, and jumped from windows. This drug doesn't just scramble your senses, it erases your grip on reality. We've now seen what these substances can do to your brain, body, and very sense of self. But the real danger? It's not just the drugs. It's what they reveal about us. Let's step back. At first, it might have felt like entertainment. The names were absurd. The stories almost comical. Invisible tennis, cosmic sausages, keyboard cleaner as a budget VR headset. It's easy to laugh. But as the journey deepened, the tone shifted. The punchlines turned to warning signs. The curiosity to dread. Because somewhere between a giggle and a gasp, it hit. This isn't a joke. These substances aren't distant headlines or urban legends. They're real. They're everywhere. And they're lethal, sometimes instantly, sometimes invisibly. What started as just a hit to feel something quickly spiraled into psychosis, organ failure, amputation, or worse, death, without ever understanding why. The line between experimentation and devastation? Sometimes just a few extra seconds, or milligrams. You begin to realize, no matter how cool the name or how cheap the thrill, these drugs don't offer escape. They offer erasure of memory, of control, of life itself. And the scariest part? They don't discriminate. Teenagers, veterans, artists, students, anyone, everyone. The transformation isn't just physiological, it's emotional. You start by laughing and end by questioning, how close have I come to a line I didn't even see? Now that you've seen what one misstep can lead to, it's time to talk about what we can actually do to protect ourselves and the people we care about. Let's move from chaos to clarity. The first step isn't fear, it's knowledge. Awareness is what separates choice from accident. And when it comes to these substances, the margin of error is razor thin. So here's the rule. If you don't know what it is, don't take it. Period. No matter who offers it, no matter how harmless it looks. If it's unlabeled, unprescribed, or unverified, assume it's dangerous because it very likely is. Many of these drugs hide in plain sight. In counterfeit painkillers sold online, in vape cartridges marketed as herbal, in pills passed around at parties. And for the elderly, the risk multiplies. Weaker livers, slower kidneys, and complex medical routines mean that even low doses of the wrong compound can cause massive damage. It's not just about bad kids or drug addicts. It's about unsuspecting people trying to manage pain, sleep, or stress, who end up victims of a system flooded with toxic fakes and designer poisons. Talk to your doctor. Read the label. Avoid anything that promises euphoria without effort. And most importantly, talk to the people around you. Ask questions. Share this knowledge. Prevention doesn't require expertise, just attention and empathy. And if you're a caregiver or someone in a high-risk group, double that vigilance. What you don't know could be what hurts most. Now that we've armed ourselves with knowledge, there's one final lesson to reflect on the deeper message behind this entire journey. Just because something is legal doesn't mean it's safe. Just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's harmless. We live in a world where danger doesn't always wear a warning label. Sometimes it comes wrapped in convenience, hidden in medicine bottles, or whispered through peer pressure. These drugs, air dusters, synthetic opioids, hallucinogens from Cold War labs, aren't just chemical curiosities, they're mirrors. They reflect how much we still misunderstand risk, how easily we mistake access for approval, and how dangerously close curiosity can come to catastrophe. This isn't just about avoiding death. It's about valuing life. Your brain, your memories, your ability to think, love, connect, these are fragile, irreplaceable things. The wrong compound can shatter them, sometimes permanently, sometimes without you even knowing it happened. But knowledge protects. It doesn't scare you away, it pulls you back from the edge. It reminds us that we don't need to experience everything to understand the cost. That choosing caution isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And it's not just about you, it's about the people around you, your friends, your family, your community. Sharing this kind of knowledge saves lives. Literally. So, before the next pill, the next puff, the next just once, ask the question that could save you. Do I really know what I'm putting into my body? Because the answer might be the difference between waking up or never waking up again. In today's world, danger doesn't always come in dark alleys. It can come in pretty packaging and promising labels. The story of these hidden drugs reminds us that what we don't know can absolutely hurt us. Whether it's a pill, a product, or even a belief system, the principle is the same. Curiosity without caution is a loaded gun. In daily life, always question what you consume physically and mentally. Verify sources. Ask questions. Don't follow trends blindly. Your awareness is your armor. Sometimes, the most powerful decision you can make is to pause and think before you act.